Prince Harry never expected a quiet visit to Clarence's house would spiral into an emotional earthquake. Led into Queen Camilla private sitting room by mistake, he stumbled upon something no royal son should ever see: his late mother's handwritten letters, personal jewelry, and a diary that should have been sealed forever. What was Camilla doing with Princess Diana's most intimate memories? And why did it feel like Diane's ghost had been locked in that room all along? A routine visit turned into a royal shock. In April 2025, Prince William made an unannounced visit to Clarence's house for what was intended to be a short conversation with King Charles about Queen Catherine's recent hospitalization. He was escorted through the private wing by a new aide who mistakenly led him to Queen Camilla, his dressing chamber. While she was away for a luncheon at Highgrove, William, alone for nearly 12 minutes, noticed the antique writing desk, asked by the window, unusual for a dressing room, and filled with locked drawers. The room, saturated with 19th century portraits and heavy floral drapes, felt untouched by modern royal life. One drawer, slightly ajar, revealed a familiar blue envelope marked WC 1997, triggering an emotional response William hadn't felt since his mother's funeral. Inside were letters handwritten by Princess Diana in the summer of 1997, weeks before the Paris crash. William recognized his mother's looped cursive, immediately sealed in envelopes that had once been archived under royal protection at Kensington Palace. As he carefully lifted one envelope, dated August 2, 1997, a small silk ribbon fell out, still tied in the knot Diana had often used to close her journals. The sight of her writing sentences starting with "To my darling William" left him frozen. For nearly 20 minutes, William sat silently with tears welling in his eyes, realizing these were pieces of his mother's private world he thought had been buried or stolen after her death. The envelope he opened first included a passage where Diana wrote, "I see a shadow around your father and someone else who wears a smile that doesn't reach her eyes." William immediately understood the meaning. Camilla had access to letters warning him about her own presence, letters meant for him, not her. He noticed faint pencil annotations on the margins of the letter, corrections, and notes. One said emotive but unfair. William's grief quickly turned to quiet fury. The act of someone marking up his mother's final thoughts felt like a desecration. These were not historic artifacts, these were the final emotional bridges from a mother to her son. At the bottom of the drawer was a box labeled bracelets and memorabilia, Spencer Archive. William opened it to find the friendship bracelet Diana had gifted him on his 15th birthday in 1997, with the initials W.P.O.S.D. carved inside. He hadn't seen it in over 2 decades. There were also several black and white photographs from Balmoral and Sandringham, along with a folded note from Diana reading, "Keep this close when I cannot be." The room fell silent, the weight of loss pressing down like it did on that September morning in Westminster Abbey. What was supposed to be a brief drop-in had become a direct window into stolen memories. The hidden brooch that told a different story. When William opened the lower drawer beneath the envelope box, he wasn't expecting to find what appeared to be a velvet-wrapped parcel labeled Diana Private Collection 1986. Carefully peeling away the navy cloth, he found a brooch, an antique sapphire piece, gifted to Diana by Queen Elizabeth II in December 1986, following the Prince and Princess of Wales's official visit to Saudi Arabia. The brooch had been missing from the royal archives for years, assumed misplaced during Diana's divorce or handed over to Kensington Palace. It had been photographed on Diana only once, during a December 21st royal gala at Buckingham Palace. William stood frozen, staring at a jewel that had no business being in Camilla's drawer. Attached to the brooch was a short hand-written tag in Queen Camilla's cursive reading, "Reclaimed from Spencer Box, rightful place." Finally, the words hit William like a gut punch. Reclaimed, as if Diana's private possessions are up for redistribution once she was gone. This was not a state asset or family heirloom passed through generations. It was a deeply personal gift tied to a difficult era in Diana's marriage. William vividly remembered how Diana had worn that brooch on the night Charles had cancelled his appearance last minute, and how she smiled through the pain in front of cameras. That memory returned now 39 years later, stronger than ever. Even more shocking was a small compartment beneath the brooch that held a letter from Lord Spencer, Diana's brother, dated May 3, 1998, sent just 9 months after Diana's death. It was addressed to Charles and urged him not to distribute any of Diana's private jewelry or writings to anyone not in direct bloodline to William or Harry. Charles had underlined one phrase in red: non-blood family members must abstain. The existence of that letter and the fact that it was hidden away rather than honored told William all he needed to know about what had really happened to his mother's possessions. This wasn't oversight. It was possession. The more William uncovered, the more the truth unraveled. Camilla had clearly not just received these items, she had claimed them, absorbed them into her personal legacy. Jewelry once worn by Diana now sat beside Camilla, his coronation tiaras and ceremonial pearls. William's heart sank as he saw a pair of sapphire drop earrings he once gifted Diana for Mother's Day 1995, a gift he bought with Prince Harry, using pooled allowance money that these weren't not returned to her sons but instead silently rehomed to Camilla. His personal vault revealed a deeper betrayal than he'd anticipated. Grief now gave way to righteous, quiet rage as William left that room, his hands trembling and chest hello. It became painfully clear this was no accident of inheritance. The jewelry and letters had been hidden, hoarded, and marked by hands that never had Diana's love or her blessing. What came next wasn't just about memory. It was about rewriting history. And the more William began to look, the more evidence surfaced that this was a pattern, not an isolated act. The very structure of Queen Camilla jewelry collection would reveal a chilling plan decades in the making. The ring that wasn't meant for Camilla. William had always believed his mother's engagement ring, the legendary 12-carat Salon sapphire ring, was passed to Harry after Diana's passing and later offered by Harry to William when he proposed to Kate Middleton in 2010. But behind a locked case in Camilla, his private display drawer, William discovered an unsettling replica of the same ring, accompanied by a 2005 letter from Royal Jeweller Garage confirming a restoration project. William immediately recognized the handwriting. Camilla, his instructions on the back read modified to match Diana's design for future state use. The thought that Camilla had commissioned a duplicate of Diana's ring in secret was chilling. William stared at the craftsmanship. It was nearly perfect, but colder somehow. The sapphire had none of the glow he remembered from childhood photos or the day Kate slipped it on. Beneath the ring sat a photograph marked "Trial Fitting, Windsor, July 2006, where Camilla was shown wearing the ring during a closed-door photo shoot. William had never seen the image before. It had been buried both literally and emotionally in a drawer meant to remain hidden from royal record. And yet, that was not the most disturbing part. Beneath the photo was a correspondence thread between Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Charles, and Camilla Parker Bowles, dated April 2005, just days before Charles and Camilla his wedding. In the letter, the Queen expressed concern about Camilla, his attempt to incorporate Diana's jewelry into her future public image. Both had underlined in bluing, "Optics of such reuse may damage public trust." Charles had responded, "tersely handled." William realized then that his father had made a conscious choice to allow Diana's jewelry, the very symbols of her love and suffering, to be transferred to the woman who'd replaced her. William clutched the replica ring tightly, anger rising beneath the surface. For years he had assumed certain facts were lost, misplaced, or kept respectfully away from public eyes. Now he knew they were curated, selected, duplicated, and presented in a way that blurred the line between tribute and or a show. He closed the case and stepped back, suddenly seeing the room not as a collection of heirlooms, but as a graveyard of stolen affection. Everything once sacred was now a hollow replica worn by someone who had stood outside the castle walls for so many years, and who had now crowned herself queen in every sense. That ring marked the beginning of a twisted legacy, one where Diana's most cherished symbols were duplicated, distorted, and used to write a story she never consented to. William walked out of Camilla's chamber knowing that what he discovered couldn't stay buried. The deeper he looked into his mother's missing archives, the clearer it became this was a strategy, and the next item on Camilla, his shelf and envelopes, simply marked HRH, his wedding plan 1989, would shake the very foundations of everything he thought he knew about his parents' marriage. The hidden wedding plan that predated the divorce. William unsealed the envelope marked HRH's wedding plan 1989, expecting it to be related to a past event and Charles and Diana's marriage. But what he discovered left him speechless. The document inside was a detailed outline for a royal wedding ceremony between Charles and Camilla, dated August 14, the name of for 7 years before Charles and Diana's official separation in 1996, and nearly 16 years before Charles and Camilla actually married in 2005. Wasn't a rough draft, it was complete. Located Asian guests, music, even jewelry lists for Camilla ceremonial pieces were included, and at the top it was signed by both Charles and Camilla with the line, "Or when the time is finally ours." What hit William hardest wasn't just the timing, but the details. The dressmaker listed was the same designer who had worked on Camilla, his eventual wedding outfit. The music selection included Diana's favorite orchestra. A specific section detailed the rings Camilla would wear, including a reference to Diana's sapphire should it be recoverable. William was stunned. This was not a spontaneous love story that bloomed after tragedy. It had been orchestrated, plotted behind closed doors while his mother was still fulfilling her royal duties and raising her sons. The betrayal wasn't only emotional, it was procedural, it was institutional. Tucked behind the plan was a private note from Camilla to Charles written in 1990 after William's 8th birthday. In the letter, she congratulated him on how gracefully Diana handled the press and wrote, "She wears the crown, but we carry the throne." That one line stabbed into William's heart. It echoed something Diana once said in her Panorama interview, that she always felt there were 3 people in her marriage. That letter confirmed it wasn't paranoia, it was truth. A documented truth hidden in a jewelry box among keepsakes never meant for William's eyes. The final item in that on below was a list titled Inheritance Suggestions, written in Charles's handwriting. It detailed where each heirloom or royal artifact should go. Camilla, his name appeared more than William's or Harry's. The brooches, rings, pearls, even the tiaras once a source he did with Diana or the Queen Mother were tagged for Camilla. His future ceremonial use. Inheritance wasn't about legacy, it was about loyalty. And William could now see with heartbreaking clarity that Diana's memory had been systemically buried in favor of rebuilding Charles and Camilla narrative from the ashes of betrayal. That envelope shattered any illusion William had clung to about the past. His mother wasn't just excluded, she was replaced, rewritten, and reassigned in the footnotes of royal planning. Just as he was ready to close the case on the jewelry box, something caught his eye: a dusty, faded locket, tucked into the edge of a hidden drawer. It bore no royal seal, no emblem. But once he opened it and saw the photographs inside, his knees buckled. Because this wasn't Camilla jewelry, it was Diana's memory preserved in secret. The locket that should have been his. The lock, it was tarnished and old, wrapped in a thin, faded ribbon, and sealed in a pouch labeled, "Simply for my boys." Inside were 2 small black and white photos, one of young William in a sailor suit taken on the day of his christening in 1982, and one of Harry laughing beside Diana at a zoo in 1990. Opposite the photos was a folded note. It was Diana's handwriting. William could barely breathe as he unfolded the paper and saw the words, "No matter what crown you wear, know that you are always my kings. Love, Mama." He collapsed into the nearest chair, the weight of it all, the brooch, the ring, the wedding plan. And now this was too much. His mother had clearly crafted this locket as a personal message, a legacy of love for her sons. Yet here it was locked in Camilla's vault, never given to him or Harry. How had Camilla even come into possession of something so intimate, so personal? It was never supposed to be part of the royal estate. This wasn't jewelry, it was memory. It was heartbreak in gold and ink. Beneath the locket was another unfollow. William's hands too trembled as he opened it. Inside were 2 letters. One was a July 1996 letter from Diana to her lawyer, explicitly instructing that her private items, including this locket, be handed over to William and Harry upon their 21st birthdays. The other was in October 1997 reply from Charles, his solicitor, stating the items had been temporarily absorbed into the royal inventory for safekeeping. William did the math. He had turned 21 in 2003. That was over 22 years ago, and yet here the locket sat unclaimed, undisclosed, hidden. William didn't leave the room immediately. He sat for hours, a locket in one hand, Diana's note in the other. The jewelry wasn't just treasure, it was testimony. But even as the night crept in, there was one last on below, tucked far in the back, marked with a red wax seal. Its title read Monarch Transfer Pre-Approval Notes 2010. William felt a chill down his spine, because if what he'd seen so far had broken his heart, what was in that envelope might just change the entire future of the crown. The Monarch memo. That changed everything. The sealed envelope had a royal wax insignia, meaning it was meant for official use. William cracked it open cautiously, half expecting more tragedy. Inside was a 6-page internal document prepared by the Royal Council of Succession in March 2010, just months before Queen Elizabeth began quietly preparing her long-term abdication strategy. The file was shocking. It proposed that upon Charles' eventual coronation, Queen Consort Camilla would be elevated not just ceremonially, but with specific constitutional privileges normally reserved only for monarchs or direct heirs. Buried in that language was a clause: if deemed appropriate, the consort may assume private custodianship over royal historical archives and physical legacies. William reread that line for times. Physical legacies wasn't vague, it was code for jewelry, letters, garments, and heirlooms. The file included a sub-report labeled Custody Concerns, listing Diana's artifacts, catalogued, appraised, and moved under Camilla as per view in 2011. There was no royal order signed by William, no legal hand over it. Had all been done through internal recommendation based on a single approval from Charles and a rubber stamp from the Household Office. William's throat tightened. His mother's memory hadn't just been mishandled, it had been politically reassigned. Even worse, the memo included language about historical narrative reshaping. The council, it seemed, had been advised to streamline all future references to Camilla, his role as Queen Consort, by minimizing comparisons to Diana and consolidating jewelry and visuals under Camilla, his public image. This wasn't preservation, it was whitewashing. William could now see the strategy with terrifying clarity. If Camilla held Diana's jewelry, her letters, even her locket, she could slowly assume the appearance of legitimacy, not by love, but by possession. William wasn't just losing his mother's memory. He was watching it be overwritten. But even as William tried to process the full weight of what he had uncovered, he knew this story wasn't his alone. The next morning he sent a secure message to Harry. What followed would shake the royal family at its foundation, because the moment Diana's sons stood united, armed with the truth, their mother's words, and her stolen legacy, it would no longer be a question of inheritance. It would be a question of justice. And justice was long overdue. The hidden diaries, shocking revelations. The small leather-bound diary tucked beneath the velvet jewelry box wasn't just a personal item, it was a bombshell dated 1992. The entries were penned during the peak of the media war between Princess Diana and Prince Charles, a time the British tabloids dubbed the War of the Wales. As in flowing cursive, Diana described as suffocating isolation inside Kensington Palace, using phrases like "I feel like I'm vanishing and my words echo in these empty holes." The diary wasn't romanticized, it was raw, grim, and profoundly personal. In a particularly chilling entry from August 5, 1992, Diana described overhearing Charles' hushed phone calls with Camilla Parker Bowles. She wrote, "I sleep with the door locked. Now, not because I fear strangers, but because I fear betrayal." Diana recounted secret cameras being installed and a royal aide who warned her that even her private thoughts weren't truly private. She expressed fear that she was being watched for behavior, possibly to use her emotions as evidence of instability. These entries weren't vague, they were accusations. One passage referenced a conversation Diana had with her friend Lucia Fletcher de Lima, where she reportedly asked, "Will history remember me? Or will she, Camilla, wear my story like a borrowed dress?" That line struck Harry to the core. He realized this wasn't just his mother's emotional journal. It was her attempt to hold on to truth in a palace where silence was protocol. Each page was like a message in a bottle, desperately thrown from a sinking ship. It confirmed Diana feared she would be painted as irrational, while others sculpted their own myths. Harry's discovery of the diary shattered what little illusion remained about the palace's intentions, but what came next was worse. Not speculation, not theory, but confirmation. A quiet message from a former staff member would remove all doubt and place the final nail in the coffin of trust. Royal staff leaked details to Harry. Just days after returning to Frogmore Cottage, Harry received a discreet message via encrypted email from a former royal butler who had served from 1988 to 2002. The man, once stationed at Windsor Castle, claimed he personally packed that exact box in early 1998. After Diana's state had been catalogued, he had sealed it with instructions to send it to the Royal Archives under controlled access. Harry's stomach turned as he read the message. It confirmed that the box wasn't